Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bob Stewart. We're gonna talk for the next little while about how to boost your lead conversion and kind of some of the tactics that we're using here at Brivity that Ben Kinney's teams use. And you guys may or may not be familiar with Ben. He's the founder of Brivity, and he also runs about 45 expansion teams, or is a partner in 45 expansion teams around the United States. And I have the pleasure, the absolute pleasure of working with those teams every month to develop how they are leveraging the Brivity platform to increase their lead conversion, to stay in touch with more past clients in Sphere. So today we're going to talk about some of the automation that we have inside of Brivity. And we have kind of a mixed audience here. We've got folks like Randy Sumbles who are Brivity users and have been around and are going to know about these tools that I'm going to talk to you guys about, but maybe he'll pick some stuff up on how to actually leverage them and utilize them. And then we've got folks, and I don't know specifically who you might be in the audience, that are not currently Brivity clients. And maybe you're thinking about using Brivity, or maybe you're just thinking to yourself, like, I know I need to increase my conversions. No matter where those leads are coming from, right? Zillow or Realtor.com or from the open house that you did this weekend, if your state's allowing you to do those again, which I think most of them are. So that's what we're going to talk about. Let me get my screen ready to share with you guys here. And before we do kind of dive in here, I want everybody to make sure you know where the chat is at. Mr. Wallsmith, thank you. Susan, hi. Everybody go find the chat for me real quick. And do me a favor, tell me, what is your number one source of prospects for your business? Now, I get not where does your business come from, because most of you guys are going to say referrals and Sphere and past clients, but like new contacts getting added to the database. What is your biggest source of new contacts getting added to the database? And there's Stacy prospecting. Oh, her number one source is Brivity. Yeah, awesome, Stacy. So Facebook ads, Melissa says. Lots of Facebook ads. That's fantastic. Open houses. So Debbie's out there. She's getting face-to-face with people. That's fantastic. Yeah, Nancy. Facebook's been a big one for a lot of people. Gerard says, was Boomtown, now Brivity. Fantastic. Brivity and Facebook. Referral Exchange. I know those guys. They're a great group. Open house. All right. Reverse prospecting on some lists. Yeah, there we go. Realtor.com. All right. So Brivity Facebook ads, love to see that. Okay, so let's get our page loaded up here. This is the one we want. And we're going to, James, real quick, do you see how to massively boost your lead conversion? Is that what you see right now?
I see it. And
now we're full screen. Sorry, guys. This is the first webinar that I've hosted since I'm back from vacation, James. I'm a little bit like, this is kind of a new feeling here. This is the 7 millionth webinar I've hosted in my life. But all right, so thank you guys for checking in. As we go through here, if you guys have questions, fire them in there. I'll try to keep my eyes on the questions, and we'll definitely have some time at the end to do these. So just real quick, if you're a Brivity client, you know about this. By the way, join us at Happy Hour today. We're going to be talking about the search app, and that thing's ready. So we're really excited to get an app into your consumers' hands so that they can look on your website or they can look on the app. But this slide is the Brivity world, right? So we know in our business, you guys are always, there's people out there. We call that traffic. They could be at an open house, right? They could be on Facebook. They could be on Google. They could be at the other side of their door if you're out knocking around in their neighborhood. But this traffic is out there. And we know if we put the right content and messaging in front of that traffic, that we can potentially capture them into the database, right? Depending on what tool we're using, right? Sometimes that message is, we have a new listing and we put our Quickly sign out front and the message is get the price and the photos, and they go, I want to do that. They text Quickly and that captures them, right? So no matter how we capture them, we're going to get them into the CRM, from which point we have to nurture them. That's a lot about what we're going to be talking about today, is that process, that kind of middle of the diagram right there, where once that leads in the CRM, what kind of auto plans, like what market reports and listing alerts, how are we nurturing these people? How do we get phone calls to a high volume of people in our database? We're really going to be focused on that nurture piece right there in the middle today. And then obviously Brivity does transaction management, listing management, and all these other things, right? So today we're going to be focused right in that middle little section, kind of around the CRM and the concept of, look, we have the lead in here already, right? Over our career, we haven't had a hard time getting leads. And look, if you have a little bit of effort you're willing to put in, like the gal that was going out and doing open houses, right? Or you have a little bit of dollars to spend on marketing. Some of you guys are doing that on Facebook, or maybe you're giving us that budget and we're going out and leads has never really been a problem, right? We can get them. They're all over the place. The problem has been conversion. And so let's talk for a second about the lead flow model. And you guys all want to make sure that this is happening in your business, right? Lead comes in, and it doesn't matter when the lead comes into Brivity, where the lead was originated at, we can get it into Brivity. So obviously, if it comes from one of your Brivity website or the quick lead texting tool, or, it's going to route into Brivity, right? The CRM. But if it comes from Zillow or realtor.com or, some of these other places that I saw you guys talking about here in the chat, right? If it comes from one of those, right, referral exchange, we can get it in to Brivity, right? With Zillow, we've got a direct API connection. You just go over to Zillow and throw in this API key. With some of the other places, you have to use like a Zapier connection where the lead gets fired to Zapier and it gets fired to Brivity. Or in some cases like realtor.com, we give you an email address that you just go place in realtor.com and we can get that lead ported immediately into Brivity. Now from there, you're going to route the lead. The lead is going to route, and we've got a whole set of routing kind of capabilities where you can route leads to different people on your team. Now, look, if you're a single agent, high five, Gerard. You get all the leads, bud. And I don't know if you are not a single agent, Gerard, but if you were, you'd get them all. And there's no routing concept there, right? Leads come to you. But if you run a team or you've got a partner, right, we got to determine which leads go where. So you might have leads in a certain price point go to one agent, or leads in a different city go to one agent, or you want all the seller leads to go to you, but you want all the buyer leads to go to the people on your team, right? So we can set up this kind of routing concept and determine who gets the lead. So obviously the agent's going to be notified once they get the lead. And then this really powerful piece is going to apply, right? This concept of an auto plan applying onto your lead right when that lead comes in. Now, what we have to kind of do with these auto plans, first off, we have to build the auto plan, maybe, right? You could build it from scratch, or maybe you could get those auto plans from somewhere else. And I'm going to give, if you're a Brivity client, I'm going to give you guys a couple at the end of the call, a couple of the ones that Ben Kinney's teams use, just to make sure that you have those in hand so you can go out and apply triggers, which are going to help these plans fire automatically. So your agent, whoever gets routed that lead, and somebody's going to get that lead, they don't have to be sitting at their computer when that lead comes in to jump in there and call them. Now, in a perfect world, they would be, not necessarily at their computer. They could be on the go and the lead comes into their Brivity Go app and they go, I got a new lead, I should call it. But even if that doesn't happen, and the reality is most of the leads that come into our world, any of your worlds, we're not sitting at the computer or sitting at our phone waiting for that lead to come in to call them right away. Now, we all know that if we called them sooner, that'd be better, but we need some communication to start happening with that lead immediately, and that's what an auto plan is. And so an auto plan includes tasks. So you can set tasks in there. You can say, hey, look, call this person on the first day the lead comes in, call them on the third day, call them on the seventh day, call them on the 14th day, right? We can have texts geared up to send out to this lead, and then emails geared up to send out to this lead. These texts and emails can include things like placeholders where we can use their name, for example, in the text and the email. So they get a little bit of personalization, a little bit of customization. So that's what an auto plan has in it. And then we're going to set up triggers. And this is kind of, this is the full power of auto plans. It'd be one thing if you just had a plan and every time you saw a lead in your database, you were like, well, let me give them a plan, right? That lead just came in from Zillow last night. I should apply this plan to them when I first see that lead the next morning. That'd be cool, but it'd be way cooler if when that lead came in last night when I was having dinner with my wife, the plan just applied to that lead. And so we can build these triggers inside of Brivity, and you should have triggers, by the way. You should have triggers probably, and we can do them based on source. So we could have a certain plan that fired on our Zillow leads, and we could have a different plan that fired on our Facebook leads, right? We can do it based on intent. So we might have a certain, even if let's say they were leads from our website, well, we're going to have buyer leads from our website and seller leads from our website. So we'd have a trigger that said, if the source is our website and the intent is buyer, fire this plan. If the source is our website and the intent is seller, fire this other plan. Status. So we can actually take a lead, and let's say we had a lead that was new, right? Lead comes in. We could change the status and have that fire some other plan. Tags. So there's a whole bunch of ways inside of Brivity. For example, we have these things called /share. So you can take a listing, you can add /share to it, and you can create a landing page out of that listing. Now, when you build that landing page, you can give that page a tag. So you can say, look, I'm going to build this landing page for my new listing I have, and we're going to put this on Craigslist. And I want to make sure if any of those leads come in, we tag them with Craigslist, right? Even though they came to the website, ultimately that marketing was done on Craigslist. So we could add a tag there. And then we could fire a plan that said, hey, thanks for checking out our property on Craigslist. So these are really important. And so Randy Sumbles, for example, right, already a Brivity client, probably already has the plans I'm going to share with you guys at the end of the call. Who do we want to get plans set up for? Well, what should we do first? Ultimately, we want to get a plan to kind of cover almost every type of lead that would come into our world. But initially, these are the ones that we make sure when we engage a new team, they come into Ben Kinney's world, and I sit down monthly to work with them. We're making sure these are covered, right? That they've got website buyer leads set up to get a certain type of plan. We use the Ben Kinney team 10 days of pain. I'm going to give you guys that. We've got a different plan that applies when an open house lead comes in. We've got a different plan that applies when we get a quickly text lead, because they don't want to have their email address. So we don't want to have a plan that's got a bunch of emails in it. And most of the time we get a quickly lead, we know they were actually out in front of the house. So we want to say something maybe a little bit different or a little bit more aggressive than we want to say to a website lead. So we have a variation of the 10 days of pain that we apply. It's text only, and it goes to our text folks. My seller leads, any valuation style leads that I get. And then your number one or two outside sources, Zillow, Realtor.com, Referral Exchange, HomeLight, whatever those things might be for you, right? We're going to make sure that we get a trigger in place with a corresponding plan that will fire on that lead based on where that lead's coming from and whether they're, kind of showing up in our world as a buyer or a seller. Right. So I'm going to run us really quickly through the 10 days of pain. And this is a plan. In fact, right now, I'll give it to you guys. If you're a Brivity client, okay, this plan is going to, you have to be the account owner of your Brivity account. So if you're an agent on this call, your account owner said, hey, go listen to this Brivity call and see how we can get better at converting leads. You're going to give this link that I'm about to give you to the account owner. But what will happen is if you click that link as the account owner, it will pull the Ben Kinney team 10 days of pain auto plan into your account. It'll just pull it right in there. All of these texts and emails and different things that we do on that plan. Now, that plan is 21 steps. Okay, I think it's 21 steps. I believe it's like 18 either texts or emails, and there's 3 phone calls kind of throughout that plan, right? But if you executed this plan, if you were able to make the 3 calls that get set as tasks for you, this consumer would get 21 contact attempts from you in the first 14 days. There is a reason we're this aggressive. Now, it's called the 10 days of pain. We've made it even more painful over the years. It lasts for 14 days now. But the reason we did that is because NAR, a number of years ago in their home buyer and seller survey, they had a stat. And that stat said when a consumer makes the decision that they want to buy or sell, they go online and they pick the agent they're going to work with in the next 10 days. Now, when we get a lead, we don't know if they just started, if we're like day 1 and we now have 10 days before they're going to pick their agent, or did we catch them on day 5? Maybe they'd already registered on Zillow 5 days ago. Now they're out looking around and they find our website or our Facebook ad pops up on them, and we're catching them on the 5th day. I mean, we could be catching them on the 30th day. Maybe they haven't made a decision, or maybe they think they're going to work with someone else, and we could end up changing that decision. So we're so aggressive in those first 14 days because we know that they're going to pick an agent really soon after they start going online and kind of putting their feelers out there. So here's what the plan looks like. And some of you guys, Randy, you're probably using this, but the first day, we're going to send 3 to 4 text messages that first day. Okay, we're going to address the query directly. Hey, thanks for texting in about our listing. Hey, thanks for your interest in our property that we were marketing on Craigslist. Right? We're going to address the query. And then the second text is going to make an ancillary ask or offer. Hey, did you guys want to get out and take a look at that property? Right? If it was a website lead. If it was a quickly lead, do you guys want to see the inside? I could meet you out there in an hour. Right? Make an ancillary ask or offer. And then guilt. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So here's the first text, first day. Right? Hey, I saw you stop by my real estate website. If you were going to buy, where would you want to live? And we have some different variations of this. Sometimes we'll say, hey, do people normally come to our website for 1 or 2 reasons? They're trying to find a new house to buy and live in, or they're curious what their own home is worth. Which one are you? But that first text is just addressing what they were doing. Duh. Right? Hey, you're on my website. Like, can I help you? If you were going to buy, where would you want to live? Right? And it fills in their name, our name. Right? So when that lead got routed to an agent on your team, that text is going to come from them. It's going to use their name. It's going to go to the customer. It's going to use their name. Second text. Hey, are you looking to live in a new home, sell, or maybe purchase a rental property? Right? That's one example. A second example, like a quickly, that second text might say, did you want to set up a private tour? Or I guess this might be a Zillow lead, right? Did you want to set up a private tour of any of the homes you saw today? That second text on a quickly lead might be, hey, did you guys want to get inside and look at that house? And then the third text is guilt. This is a massively effective text message. So what we do is, the way an auto plan works, the first text is going to go out, and you determine this, but in our world, it's about 3 minutes after they register. We don't want to do it 5 seconds after they register because that would feel inauthentic. Right? But 3 minutes later, we could definitely have gotten to that lead 3 minutes later and typed out this text message. After that, we wait an hour. If they don't respond to this text, the second text goes. Now, if they respond, the plan pauses, nothing else happens, right? But if they don't, the second text will go an hour later. Hey, do you want to see the inside of that house? Hey, if you were looking to or maybe you're looking to sell or purchase a rental or whatever that second text is. And we have it all lined out in this plan I'm going to give you. Right? But there is some variation from plan to plan. Now, if they don't answer that second text an hour later, the third text goes out. So they've gotten 2 texts from us. They haven't responded in that first 2 hours, basically. Now we send this one. Hey, this is Jimmy, right? I hope I don't have the wrong number. This text gets all kinds of, oh yeah, hey, it's me. Sorry, I'm at work. I'm not even supposed to be on my computer. Like, can you call me later? This is a really effective text. Okay, really effective. All right, so here's some of the others that we mix in over the next 10 days. And by the way, all of these texts have a corresponding email that's set up to go out with them that basically says the exact same thing, just a little bit more verbose, right? A few more words. An email, they're apt to read a little bit more in an email. Text, we're trying to be a little bit more concise and to the point, right? So next day, hey, would you like to go see any of the homes that you saw online? Does today or tomorrow work better for you, right? Next day. And by the way, if you wanted this slide deck, if you're not a Brivity client, you're like, I'm not going to get this plan at the end of the day. And I'm not going to end up being a Brivity client. I'm just here to learn. Cool. Shoot me an email, bob@benkinney.com. I'll send you this slide deck. But this is the next text, right? My company just launched a program that offers a mortgage with 0 lender fees. It usually saves my clients between $2,000 and $5,000 to purchase. If you do buy, do you plan to pay cash or need financing? Look, when we give these plans out, we build these plans for Ben Kinney's business. Now, in Ben Kinney's business, they have a lender in every one of our markets that does this program, right? They have a thing called the Keller Mortgage at Keller Williams, and Ben actually has his own mortgage company called BKCO Mortgage, and we offer this to people. If you don't offer this to people, you would go in and tweak that plan, right? You might just say, hey, I've got a really amazing lender that I've worked with over the years who's been able to save my clients a ton of money and get them really great rates. If would you be interested in speaking to that person? Oh, by the way, if you do buy, do you plan to pay cash or will you need financing? right? So you just take what we do. The questions we asked are based on a conversation flow called LP Mama, right? Location, price, mortgage, agency, motivation, appointment, right? We're trying to get the answers to these questions that we know once we get them answered, a lot of times we have a client. So however we can open the door to them, we just keep coming from different angles. At any time, if they reply, it stops the plan. But if they don't reply, this thing just keeps going. And so a day or two later, hey, if I could show you how owning a home could save or make you an extra $20,000 in the first year alone, would that be worth a few minutes over coffee? Our agents are all trained in having the home ownership value discussion with people. So sitting down with somebody, and each one of our agents across Ben's organization, they can do this like on a piece of paper because they know the numbers in their head, right? What's the average priced home in your market? So in Bellingham, Washington, let's say it was $400,000. Well, in the first year, the average appreciation in Bellingham over the last 40 years has been like 3%. So in the first year, I'm gonna have an extra $12,000 of net worth because my home will have appreciated on average over the last 40 years, 3%. Now in Bellingham, Washington right now, guys, it's a lot more than that, right? But annually or traditionally, it's been 3%. Then they can show somebody how much mortgage interest deduction would you have when you bought a $400,000 house. What would the savings on your mortgage or on your taxes be? Because you could write off that mortgage interest. And then the third thing is how much money would you pay down on that mortgage over that first year? And those three things combined give us that 20,000 number. Now we changed this in some of our markets, right? Our teams down in Orange County, their number's a little bit higher because if you bought a home, the average price home in Orange County, 1 year later, your net worth would be more than this number because this number is based in Bellingham. But if somebody replies to this, our agents know how to attack that, right? The cool thing for you, if you're a Brivity client, is you've probably heard Ben Kinney give that pitch of what it means to own a house in your first year. And if you haven't, you could go find that video or you could ask our support for that video. People normally visit my website for one of two reasons. They're looking for the perfect home to buy, or they're thinking about selling and wondering what their own home may be worth. Which one are you? Again, we just keep going after them with questions, right? Questions have power. There's a book called The 7 Powers of Questions. We read it every single year here. It's a great book. You should read it. Hey, I know you haven't responded to me, and I don't want you to feel bad about that. I saw a guy the other day that responded to this text message. And think about this. This is like the 5th or 6th, maybe the 7th text message they've gotten from us. They're now 8 days since they registered on Zillow or our website or wherever. They haven't responded if they end up getting this text, because if they had responded, it would have paused it. I saw a guy the other day said, I don't feel bad at all. I'm super busy this week or something like that, but maybe we could hop on a phone call next week. Like, he was almost standoffish to this, but we don't care. He responded. We have a guy now that we can figure out what's the angle now. This is one we send a little while in, right? Hey, maybe you're a current homeowner and want a report that shows what's selling around your house. This one is, I look in a lot of databases. Did I drop the ball? I had somebody the other day that responded, what ball? And look, when we saw that lead, the agent hadn't actually responded to it. And then we just had a conversation like, what do you say there? Have some fun with it. He said, what ball? He said, I don't know, basketball, baseball, football, the real estate ball. I've been texting you for the last 7 days and I hadn't heard anything from you. So I was just curious if we'd done something that, that got you irritated. And if not, what were you doing on the website? You thinking about buying, thinking about selling? So this one works too. This is another one. This one cracks me up. Most of the time that people respond to this, they'll say, yeah, who's this? Right? And you think about the progression of what's happening. They've been getting text messages for the last 9 days now, right? And then we just go, Jimmy? ? And they'll be like, yeah, it's me. Who's this? And you'll be like, the real estate agent. I've been texting you every day for the last 8 days. What do you mean, who is this, man? And then at the end, we just say, I love texting you, hate responding, right? I just want you to know I'm going to continue reaching out until I earn your business, or you hear something different about your situation. This text, it gets a bunch of LOLs. It gets a bunch of like, yeah, I've totally been ignoring you. We're just not ready yet, which is fine, right? We can talk to that person and say, that's cool. Most of the people that we end up talking to in the beginning of their journey, they're not ready to buy or sell today. We're here to help you get ready. The other thing this does is it lets them know, if you think about what's happened to this point, if you've made the 3 phone calls, which is imperative, right? If you've made the 3 phone calls, the combination of all these texts we just saw, the emails that kind of correspond with each one of these texts. By the way, we send the emails in the morning mostly, and the texts kind of after 4 o'clock in the evenings, because people are more likely to respond to their emails when they're at work and respond to their texts once they get home, right? They see those texts during the day, but they can't always respond to them depending on what their job is. Kate said, I got to quit effing texting me yesterday, verbatim. Hey, you know what, Kate? That happens, right? And the reality is you probably didn't want to work with that person anyway, or maybe they were just having a bad day, and you just reply and say, hey, really sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. We're just super passionate about helping people become homeowners or helping deliver that dream of home ownership, but we won't text you anymore. Sorry. Right? Just like, or you just ignore them because they're probably a jerk anyway, and who wants to work with a jerk, right? We got enough problems out there with buyers we love trying to find them the right house. I mean, we don't want to work with any a-holes. Lauren, some of these texts aren't right. We have a lot of people on our team that say that. They come into our world and they just don't have, look, Ben Kinney, and a lot of this is done by Ben Kinney. Actually, you know what? This text right here that I'm showing you, in the version of the 10 Days of Pain that I'm going to give you, it actually says, I love texting, you don't love replying. It doesn't say you hate replying, because Jolene, her and I have tweaked these over the years, she's a little bit softer than Ben. Ben Kinney would say, I love texting, you hate replying. Jolene would say, I love texting you, but you don't love replying to me. It's a little bit softer. But we have a lot of agents who come into our world and they go, I don't know, I don't like this one. Like, I don't like, did I drop the ball? Or you can adjust these, right? Our Texas teams, by the way, they Texas them up a little bit. I don't know what they do, y'all or whatever, right? Like our teams in different parts of the country will definitely change the wording on these or tweak them to make them feel a little bit more like their style of speaking or texting. So Lauren, you could eliminate a step. You could tweak a step to make it sound a little bit more like you, make it more than anything. It's the cadence of the follow-up. Because think about this last text. A lot of people respond to this, I think, because we tell them, if you don't tell me something, I'm just going to keep following up. Now, it's probably not going to be as aggressive as those first 14 days were, right? In fact, in our world, after this last text, we set a reminder for a month from now, and we give them a whole month of a breather. They've got some of these other tools working on them that I'm going to show you here in a second, but we hammer them for that first 14 days because we know NAR statistics tell us they're going to pick an agent. Sometimes they pick us, but we don't even know, right? Sometimes they think to themselves, I'm 9 months out. I'm not going to respond to this lady, but she was pretty amazing at following up with me. When I am ready, she's the one I'm going to reach out to. All right. So auto plan sharing. So I'm going to give you a whole bunch. Oh, and you know what? Last time I think I did the chat, James, the reason you had to reshare that is because I only shared with panelists. So let me share with panelists and attendees. I'm going to give you guys a whole series of plans here. This is going to be a big copy that I'm about to do into the chat. Let's just see if this works all the way through. Okay, so what I just gave you guys all in there is the plan that we use when we get a home value lead. That's the first one, right? Valuation site full leads. We get a valuation lead that comes into our world where they were curious about what their house was worth. That's the plan that gets triggered on them. So the trigger is based on like source, Brivity IDX website, intent, seller. This second one, old buyer lead re-engage plan, that's the plan that we apply to a lead. So when they first come in, they get the 10 days of pain down here, the 2020 Ben Kinney team 10 days of pain website leads. They get that plan applied. And the text that I just showed you guys are from that plan. Now, then we give them a whole month. we don't, I mean, some of our agents might make a call in that month, but generally they're setting a reminder out for 1 month. There's a listing alert and a market report going on them. We're going to talk about those two things in just a second, right? When the month reminder comes due, so now they've been in our world for 14 days plus a month. Now we're going to call them again, probably shoot them a text message, and then we're going to apply this second plan that's in this list of plans I just gave you, the old buyer lead re-engage plan. And that plan is 6 months long. And it's spread out. In the first couple days, it's like a text every couple, 3 days. Then it moves out to like a text every 5 days, and then every 10. And then like by the end, it's texting them something like every 3 weeks. And we come from all kinds of angles, right? We come from the buyer angle, the do you need some help with the financing angle. We come from the maybe you're thinking about selling angle. A lot of the same angles we came at them from in those first 14 days. We also come at them from like, well, maybe you're just thinking about, changing something in the house you live in, and you'd like a referral to a really great, service provider. We can do that, right? At one point in that old buyer lead re-engage plan, we even ask them like, hey, sometimes when people are online looking at houses, it's because they love houses. Have you ever considered a career in real estate? Because in our world, every prospect in our world is a potential buyer, a potential seller, a potential referee to us, or talent for our business. So we're going to ask them that question. What do we care? That, they haven't replied this whole time. If they ever replied, it would have stopped the plan, right? So we just keep throwing stuff out there. Here's the 10 Days of Pain Facebook version. So that's very similar to the website version, except the wording in there indicates, hey, you checked out our listing on Facebook. There's a 10 Days of Pain quickly version. So that's leads that text in, right? They were out in front of our listing. They drove by, they texted off of our sign. We got a plan for that. The next one is the 10 Days of Pain website leads. That's kind of the standard one for your website. And then we have a Zillow version of the 10 Days of Pain. So let's say one of you guys said, hey, realtor.com is my big source. Cool. Just take our Zillow plan, copy that plan, make a copy of it. You can make a copy of an auto plan once you have it in your own account. And then just tweak everywhere we say Zillow and say realtor.com. Yeah, Katrina, you do need a Brivity account for those links to work. But if you're not a Brivity client and you were like super interested in one of those plans, I could probably get it to you if you emailed me at bob@benkinney.com. bob@benkinney.com, Katrina. But if you email me, I'm going to try to convince you to take a look at what we do. Full disclosure. All right. Enough about that. Auto plans. We can share them. Now, the cool thing is you're not just sharing them with us. We're not the only ones that can share a plan with you, right? Somebody that works here at Brivity or Ben Kinney's teams. We have people every day sharing plans between the 3,000 Brivity platform clients we have out there. So you can go into our masterminds group and be like, hey, does anybody have a plan for, a 6-month nurture or something like that? All right. So the next kind of element, we got those auto plans going when the lead comes in, right? And if you never even made a phone call, they'd at least get 18 communication attempts from you, right? A lot of opportunities for them to respond to something in there that maybe strikes a chord with them. The next thing that we want to do right away, from like the minute we've seen this lead in the database, when we're in the database working and we see this lead, they better have a listing alert set up. Now, if they come in through Brivity, probably 8 out of 10 of the leads are going to have a listing alert set up, right? We try to figure based on the property they signed up on or what they were doing on the site, we try to get a listing alert in place for them. Well, sometimes even when a lead comes through our website, they do not get a listing alert. Now, what is a listing alert? Well, it's just an email that goes out to them every day, right? That lets them know any new properties that have come on the market based on the criteria that you set them up to receive that alert for. Super simple. One of the things that we do in our alerts, though, that a few other people have started doing this now, but for years, we did this for 13 years. We were sending listing alerts, and we never, in the listing alert, asked them if they had a home to sell and if they were curious what that home was worth. Now, today, every time we send a listing alert out to your buyers, your buyer prospects, your buyer leads, a lot of those people have a house they're going to need to sell before they go buy the next house they were looking at on your website. So we're asking them, you can see it right here below the kind of on that left-hand photo right there, know your home's value. right? Is your home losing value or gaining value? Find out for free today. Get a free estimate. We're always trying to get your buyer leads to go, actually, I am curious what my house is worth. I have a house to sell before I buy that next one. We sent millions of listing alerts in my life where we weren't asking that question of people. It was ridiculous. Now we do ask that question. Now, who should have a listing alert? And I put those extra periods there, obviously, for emphasis. Every single buyer prospect should have a listing alert. Okay. Now, if I know something about so I was saying the Brivity ones get them automatically. You know who doesn't get them automatically? Your Zillow leads and your Realtor.com leads. And I want you guys to think about this. Let's say a lead comes from Zillow and it comes into your Brivity CRM and you start reaching out to them with an auto plan. If you did not set a listing alert up for that person, what are they going to do the next time they think, I want to look for houses again? They're going to go to Zillow. They're going to go right back to Zillow, I guarantee you. And there's a high likelihood whatever property they click on next, the lead's not going to be yours, right? Unless you have 100% coverage in your entire area of Zillow leads, that lead has a high likelihood of ending up in somebody else's database. And really what it becomes at the end of the day is a race to try to get that person to like your website more. And the way we do that is just we deliver those things to their inbox every day. And then over time, as they keep clicking on those things and coming back, your website becomes that kind of source of truth for them, and it becomes what they're comfortable with. So every buyer prospect, it doesn't matter where they came from, Zillow, Realtor.com, HomeLight, Referral Exchange, an open house, like it doesn't matter. They need to have a listing alert driving them back to our website. And in the beginning, most of the time, unless you have a really great conversation, you call that lead and they're like, hey, we're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. It's got to have a fence in the backyard, quarter acre or more, right? Unless you get into a conversation with them and you know absolutely what they want, all our listing alerts are going to do is key off of where and how much, right? If they were on Zillow looking at a $700,000 property in Seattle, they're going to start getting listings from us between 600, 800,000 in Seattle. Because we only have one listing most of the time. Right? Our Zillow leads, we have one listing. Our Realtor.com leads, we have one listing. A lot of our website leads, we have one listing they looked at. Facebook leads, they looked at a particular property when they were on Facebook, right? So we don't know if they really need 3 bedrooms just because that house happened to have 3 bedrooms. Maybe they need 4 and they didn't realize how many bedrooms it has when they made the inquiry. So it's just price and location. If we know. Sometimes you don't know. And I'll bet, look, if you're a Brivity client, I guarantee you probably have some of these. If you're a non-Brivity client, I guarantee you probably have some of these. Everybody has some of these. And some of these are leads where I don't know. I don't know what they're looking at. This is an old lead from Boomtown. Somebody said, I used to be Boomtown, now I'm Brivity. I bet when we brought all your data over, there are some leads in there now where you're like, I don't know what they were looking at on my Boomtown site. Because Boomtown doesn't pipe that data out when we do an export. So I'm a little bit lost here. So we are always going to default to just send something. Something's better than nothing. And so we have to be generic. So in every single one of our markets, we have a generic listing alert. Every one of our 48 teams or 45, or how many we have these days, they all know if I have a lead in my database or a lead comes into my database and I can't see what they were looking at, they get a generic listing alert. So I'll give you a couple of examples. My mom is a real estate agent. Her team is based in Olympia, Washington. They have 2 major cities kind of in that area of the Puget Sound, Olympia and Tacoma. Now the lead could have been, maybe they were interested in Lacey or Shelton or, Lakewood or one of these other towns, but she doesn't know. So she just uses the 2 major towns, Olympia and Tacoma, 250 to 400,000. Down in Orange County, California, we do because there's not really a dominant city in Orange County, we do Orange County. 700 to 900,000, right? We're in Denver. That's the major city. They could have been looking around, but we just do Denver, 500 to 650. Really what it is that what's the average price point in that area? We just bracket around it, have about, depending on the market, $100,000 to $200,000 range around that average price. And then there are major city, or in some cases, a couple of major cities, or in some cases, maybe the entire county, but a tighter price range. The idea is we want to give them a generic search wide enough that every day a new property comes on in that criteria. And I get some of your markets are really tight on inventory right now. So that might mean that it's a little bit wider of a search so that there is something dripping on them. Has anybody ever walked down the street, had like been in the city and all of a sudden just something like hit you on the head, like dripped on you, and you were like, that was amazing. That was so awesome. Like, people don't like to get dripped on, not by emails. And like, it's one thing in that first little bit where we're referencing something they just did, but, you know, a 6-month-long drip campaign with all these emails about, you know, how to get your credit score better, or like, they want properties. Like, we know they all want properties. So let's drip on them, even though that's kind of weird, with something they might want. But it's every single lead. So every buyer lead in your world should have this. Now, the second and the tool we have at play is, and this says nurture potential sellers with market reports, but so let's talk about a market report for a second. What is a market report? So a market report in Brivity language is a report that gets emailed out to somebody either weekly, every 2 weeks, or monthly, that tells them what is currently active in a certain area, what is currently pending in a certain area, and what has sold in the last 30 days in a certain area, including what did the houses sell for. So when I say in a certain area, what does that mean? Well, in some cases, that means like we do a radius around where they live. We want to show them what's going on in their area. In some cases, we want to show them everything happening in a certain city in a certain price range. In some cases, we might draw on a map and say, look, I just want to show them the properties that are selling right here in Wallingford, Seattle. And I draw a map around Wallingford. How many, like, do you guys know why Zillow exists? Like, and look, there are a lot of reasons, but I believe one of the core reasons of why Zillow exists, and has gotten to be kind of this, 800-pound gorilla in our world, right? Where more consumers in the United States recognize Zillow as a brand than they recognize any other real estate company. That's a big deal. But why is that? The reason is because back in 2005, when Rich Barton and Spencer Raskoff and Lloyd Frank, these guys were getting together and they're like, we're going to build Zillow. Our MLSs did not allow us to publicly display or give to our clients sold data in a format like we're capable of doing today. So Zillow knew, like, hey, people are getting more accustomed to going online to get information. I bet people would want to go online and see what their neighbor's house sold for, or see what their house is worth. I'm a firm believer that if in 2005 our MLSs had given us the capability to send sold data to consumers, that guess what? Zillow wouldn't have stood up like they did, because our consumers wouldn't have had to go to Zillow to get that information. They would have came to us. Well, today they can come to us if you have a tool like the Brivity Market Report tool. And I tell this stupid story, but like my wife is a 10, you guys. Randy Stumbles, like, you've probably seen her picture. We're friends on Facebook. I don't know how I got this lady to marry me. I'm a 6. I'm a solid 6, but I'm a 6. She's a 10. Okay. When she came home from work on any given day, I would never have been sitting there with tickets for her to go on a speed dating event. Like, hey, honey, take Lily and your best friend, go to the Seattle Center. There's a speed dating event this week, and there's going to be 50 really eligible bachelors there. They're all going to have awesome tans, big muscles, honey, really smart guys. Every single one of them, they're going to be funny, and they're going to have huge wallets, right? Like, go, have a great time. Maybe you'll meet somebody better than me. But let's say that your client, Bob Wallsmith, and I know not you because you're a Brivity client, Bob Wallsmith, and I know you've heard us say this till we're blue in the face, so everybody in your database has a market report going to them. But if they didn't, and one of your clients or your sphere or a friend of yours drove home tomorrow, or a lead in your database drove home tomorrow, drove into their neighborhood and saw a sold sign on one of the houses in their neighborhood, what are they going to do? Every single one of us on this call has this within arm's reach. Most of them, your cell phone, right? Most of them aren't even going to get home. They're going to pull their cell phone out. They're going to go somewhere to figure out, what did that house sell for? Do not send your clients on a speed dating event. If you send them out and they go to Zillow and they sign up somewhere there, they're trying to get how much their house is there. The next time they're in Facebook, they see an ad that says, see what your neighbor's houses are selling for. They're going to click on that ad. and they're going to end up in somebody else's database. And listen, God forbid they end up in a Ben Kinney team database, because Ben's team's going to go after them. They're going to give them a market report. They're going to have the 10 days of pain going on them. They're going to call them a bunch. Like, they're going to turn them into their client, not yours. And you could have built a moat around them and prevented them from ever having to go to Zillow. That's what a market report is. So who should have one of these? Well, all my past clients should have one. Everybody in my sphere should have one. All the seller leads and prospects that I have in my database should have one. Basically, any homeowner in my database where I have their physical address, I know where they live, and I have an email address for them, I can send them the report, should have one. But this last one is huge for us. Buyers should also have a market report. But now you might think to yourself, well, wait a minute. I don't know where the buyer lives. Buyers ultimately may end up having two market reports. One for where they live, if we can get that bit of information for them and they own a house today. But the other market report that every single buyer prospect should also have is a market report that matches or mirrors the listing alert that we're sending out to them. So let's go back to just generic. We're like, oh, we got a lead. So Gail's going to set up a listing alert for Tacoma, 450 to 600,000. So every day they're going to get the new listings that go out in that price range. And then once a week, she sends them a market report for Tacoma, Washington, homes between 450 and 600,000. And the reason she does that is because, let's say today's Wednesday. So they're sitting there, they get their email this morning, right? And the husband, he sees a house. He's like, oh, honey, I love this house. Randy Sumble sent us this house. We should call him and go see it this weekend. And she's like, no, we got the kids' baseball game this weekend, and then we have the birthday party later. We just don't have time this weekend to go see it. Maybe we'll call Randy next week. Then their market report comes out sometime in the next couple of days, because it goes out every week, right? Or the market reports are living and breathing, so they can pull them up at any time. And it's up-to-date information right to the minute from your MLS. So let's say the husband, he's watching that thing and he pulls it up on Sunday, and that property that he saw on Wednesday that he told his wife, hey, we should go look at this, it's pending now. Because in Randy's market, when you price a home right, it's pending in 4 days. So he's going to be like, hey, honey, get over here. Look at this. I mean, I know we had the birthday party, but we totally could have stopped at this house. Like, I love this thing, right? Next time one comes through and I love it, like, we're going to call Randy right away. It also gives them a really great idea of what's happening in that area they want to live, right? If they've been getting your market report for months and they see that every house that goes on the market in Tacoma between 450 and 600,000 is pending in a couple of days, and then when they end up selling for $10, $20, $40, $60,000 over the list price, right? It's not going to be that hard to convince them, look, we can't come in and make lowball offers on everything. We're never going to find a house, right? They know what's happening in the market. So they become a more educated buyer. Or they become a seller if it's a past client or a sphere who's reaching out to you. My mom, you guys got 5,000 market reports set up on a database of like 5,500 people. Like, everybody's got a market report, right? She gets come list me emails every single month. A lot of times she posts some in Brivity masterminds. Randy, you've probably seen them, right? So be generic as possible on the market reports, especially when you're doing them for your past clients, because here's what happens. You sold them the house they live in now, right? Kate. And so Kate, you're like, look, I sold them the house. I know it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's 1,800 square feet. So I'm going to set their market report up to show them everything in a 2-mile radius of their house that's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths between 1,500 and 2,000 square feet. And that's what you send. Here's the problem with that. And here's why we don't do it that way. All we do is we show them everything selling around their house. And we just put the radius out to a point where there are a minimum of 15 total properties showing on the first report we send them. So if at a half a mile, there was 2 actives, 2 pendings, and 3 solds, that would be a total of 7 properties. We would go out to a mile. And at a mile, if there was a minimum of 15, then we'd send it for a mile. The reason we don't do 3-bedroom, 2-bath, for example, at 1,500, 2,000 square feet, I get if you were going to comp their house to go sell it, you would pull comps that looked like that, Kate. But let's say you did that, 3 and 2, 15 to 2. What if a house in their neighborhood sold and it was a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath? So they're going to come home. They're going to see that sold. They're going to go to your market report. It's not going to be on there because you're only showing them houses exactly like theirs. And they're still going to want to know what that one sold for. I have some townhomes near me. They're about 1,800 square feet smaller than mine. I live in a 2,900 square foot townhome, 3-story. And there's some townhomes that just got built. Oh, no, they're 900. They're like 1,800 square feet, whatever they're at, 900 square feet less than mine. If my agent had me on a market report, just like my house, those wouldn't have came up on the market report. They're right down the street from me. I drive by them every day when I take my boys to school. They're selling now. I'm super curious what they're selling for, even though they're not just like mine. Want to know why? Because they're selling for as much as I bought my house for like 2.5 years ago, and they're 900 square feet smaller. Like, high five. I'm happy about that. But I wouldn't have known that if my agent was just sending me a market report for houses just like mine. So we be as generic as possible. Okay, so now that you're doing all that, right? You got listing alerts, you got market reports. Now what? Every single day you check the results. So we've got these columns in Brivity where you can go and see who's been on my website recently, what properties they've been looking at, how many times have they looked at those properties. Or we can go and see who's been looking at my market reports. We can even see who's been opening your listing alerts but hasn't been clicking through on any properties. Maybe those are people you try to text and say, hey, I noticed you've been getting our emails, you've been looking at the properties, but nothing seems to have caught your eye. Should we change the criteria? Right? So every day we go in and we reach out to the people that are taking action or responding to those pieces of automation that we've put in place to try to get them to raise their hand. This part right here is literally where the rubber meets the road. Right? We can do all this other stuff. We can automate the communication with them. We can get them properties and information and data being sent to them. But when they take action on it, you have to do something. I have a friend that bought a really expensive car all through text. He never once talked to the salesperson. It's the most expensive purchase that I've ever heard of somebody making completely through text message. I don't know for a fact. It's one of those things where I don't know it for a fact, but I believe it to be true, that you don't ever sell houses to people without talking to them on the phone. Right? It's just not a thing. So, come back. I'll go here and then we'll come back to that. So we have a dialer inside of Brivity. We did a thing, I don't know, it's been over a year now, where we sat with a couple agents here in Ben Kinney's Bellingham office, and we had them make 50 calls every day during that week into their database. And we just clocked how long did it take when they hung up the call, 50 manual dials. They would dial the lead, call it, talk to it sometimes not. But when they'd hang up, we'd start the clock. They'd go find the next lead, type that in to when it started dialing. It was an average of like 28 seconds, but I'm not that awesome at math, so I'm going to use 30 seconds as an average of the amount of time between each call. Now, when you're making 50 dials into your database, 30 seconds between each call adds up to 25 minutes. And if you did that every day this week, that's 2 hours. 2 hours of time spent going from ending one call to dialing and being on the next call. What could you do with an extra 2 hours every week? Now, if you don't make $50 in your database a day, obviously you don't get that kind of savings, but maybe you don't make that many dials in your database today because you don't have a dialer to do it. Now, Brivity does. I hope that, Randy, your team, I hope people are using the Brivity dialer. This is a great, you just call your sphere, your past clients, call a bunch of old leads. I'm just sit down today. I'm just going to bang through a bunch of old home value leads. And my script's going to be, do you have any real estate related plans for the year? Or my script's going to be, hey, this is going to be a really blunt question, but have you considered at what price would you sell your house? Well, what do you mean? Well, some people have a pie in the sky price that they think about selling their house for. And we are in a market where some people are getting their pie in the sky price. What is yours? We have our real estate success principles. We say the right thing, we say them to the right people, and we say it enough times. The dialer allows you to say it many more times. Okay, so we have this other, it's kind of an addition to Brivity. It's called Brivity Connect. And two of the aspects of Brivity Connect are retargeting and remarketing. So when we get a lead that comes in, we got listing alerts and we got market reports going out to them. But the other thing that our teams do with the lead is we retarget them, which means every time they go to Facebook or Instagram or any of the the network of sites out there that actually feed Facebook advertising into their sites, and there's a bunch of them, we are going to be serving properties up to that lead, similar to what they've been looking at on your website in the past. So they're coming in, they've got a plan going on them, they've got listing alerts being sent to their email every day. And then every time they're in Facebook and they're scrolling, we're popping properties up. Not just random properties, whatever they looked at on the website. So let's say they'd come into your website, they looked at a $300,000 house in Tacoma. Guess what they're going to be seeing in Facebook? Lots of ads for houses in Tacoma around $300,000. This is massively effective. Every one of you guys see this when you go into your Facebook, right? Whatever you were last thinking about buying or whatever website you were on, all of a sudden Nordstrom is serving up shoes to you because you were just looking at shoes on Nordstrom yesterday. We do the same exact thing with real estate. We also have remarketing. So, they might not be in the Facebook network, right? They might be over on CNN reading the news or Fox reading the news or MSNBC. We don't care if they lean left or right, guys. We're going to put an ad in front of them. When they're playing Candy Crush at night on their phone and they have to wait that little 10 seconds in between Candy Crush games, guess what? You're going to be there. You're going to be everywhere they go around the internet. Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, the Bellingham Herald, your local newspaper. We're going to be putting your branding in front of these people. We're going to be putting your properties in front of these people. You're going to have an auto plan talking to them. You're going to be calling them on the dialer. You're going to have listing alerts and market reports going. If they take 9 months to buy, which is what average consumers are buying, 9 to 12 months. They go online today. They don't buy for 9 to 12 months. Now they pick the agent they're going to work with in those first 10 days. But it's a long time before they buy. They're going to have seen you, if you're taking advantage of everything Brivity offers, hundreds of times by the time they make that decision. All right. And we can do this, by the way. We can start to target not just like new leads coming in. Everybody in your database, we can start to target with these things. If they've been on your website looking at properties, we can start to remarket with properties to them. We can start to serve ads up to everybody, your friends, your family, your sphere, your past clients, your leads. Just have kind of this all-encompassing assault online at them, right? And then you've got market reports and listing alerts to get into their inbox, right? And then we've got the dialer to try to, and the auto plans to light the phone up, right? This is a solid end-to-end plan for converting leads. It's a real solid one. What I would tell you though is you have to still call people. We got a lot of teams that would come in here and they'd love to never call a lead. Those leads would just raise their hand and say, "Randy, take me out and see this house today." You do still have to make an effort, right? If we could totally automate it from end to end, we'd all be rich, right? You just give us the money and we just turn around and you just get bigger paychecks back, right? I mean, you do have to put work in. So here's the deal. If you're not a Brivity client, you can text platform, like pull your phone out, send a message to the number 59559 and just text the word platform. And then we'll send you a little link and you can go and you can pick a time that you'd love to talk to one of us and really dig in and get some more information about Brivity. If you do a demo with us, we'll give you Ben Kinney's listing presentation. We landed about 3,000 listings last year using Ben Kinney's listing presentation, and you can have it, even if you don't sign up for Brivity. Now, the kicker is the listing presentation is built around the tools Brivity offers, but you can still take it. And if you didn't end up signing up with Brivity, tweak it. It's an editable PD or editable, presentation that you can edit like in Google Slides or whatever. All right, what kind of questions do you have? Brivity clients, non-Brivity clients. Everybody got those different plans. One of the plans I didn't mention, by the way, is a plan called the Wealth Series Auto Plan. So we do a podcast called Win, Make, Give, and we did like a 9-part wealth series on how to build wealth. We gave you that. We turned that wealth series into an auto plan that you could set up for your friends and family, maybe recruits that you're trying to recruit into your business. But it's basically Ben Kinney teaching for about 8 or 9 hours on how to build wealth in your life. Bob Wallsmith, you're a gem, sir. Mr. Wallsmith, Bob Wallsmith, he's down in Santa Barbara, California. He said, if there's anybody on this call that's curious about Brivity or thinking about it, and they want a reference, they can call Bob Wallsmith and he'll be happy to talk to him about Brivity. I appreciate you, Mr. Wallsmith. Do you have a link to a webinar that is similar to give to my agents on the team? Melissa, do you mean like a link to to this, something similar to this, yeah. If you, but I don't, y'all send me an email to bob@benkinney.com and I'll track down the recording. You'll get the recording of this specific webinar sent out to you tomorrow. So if, Melissa, if you just want them to watch this one, just wait till tomorrow and we'll email you a link to this recording. Or you could text or email me at bob@benkinney.com and I could give you we've done this, a variation of this at some point. Thank you, Mr. Wallsmith. And he just threw his number and his email in there if anybody's curious about reaching out to him. Yeah, Haley, get AutoPlan set up today for sure. If you're a new user, just take ours. And listen, if you take a Ben, you need to go through it. You need to go through the plan and edit each step and just kind of look and make sure that we're not saying something that you're like, oh my God, I don't know the answer to that. Like if somebody replied to that and said, yeah, I'm interested in that, you need to have the answer. So just, yeah. Haley, that's another really great piece of advice. Don't be scared to piss people off. Sometimes we don't do things that are effective because we're worried about the one. Here's an example. Listing alerts. Let's say you had a database with a bunch of old leads in it. And you went out and you're like, I'm just going to set up generic alerts on all these 100 people. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to do that because what if I get somebody that they're like, oh, that's not where I'm looking. But the reality is if you do that, you are going to get somebody that says, that's not where I'm looking. Now, the question will be, are they going to be an asshole? Or are they going to be nice, right? And look, if you do 100 old leads and set them up on a generic listing alert in your market, I promise you 1 or 2 people will reply pissed. They'll be like, who are you? It'll always be in all caps with lots of exclamation points, right? Who are you? I'm going to report you to somebody. You're just like, trash the lead. They'll turn the list alerts off. And then go worry about the other 99 people that didn't say that, right? But sometimes we don't do the things thinking we're going to upset somebody. Look, it's okay. Just apologize, move on. Or don't apologize. Just turn them off and move on. Be okay with testing? Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've done a lot of R&D. So we use R&D around here, rip off and duplicate. But whenever we rip off and duplicate from somebody, we absolutely test 20% and tweak and play. And that I love texting, you hate replying. That was something we tested and played around with 10 years ago. It worked, so we still do it 10 years later. But awesome. All right, hey, you guys, it's 1 minute past the hour. I appreciate you guys hanging out here with me. Hopefully you learned something. Robbie, Haley, Kate, Bob Wallsmith, thank you all you guys for jumping in here. Genero, who else? All you guys, everybody who said something, asked something, contributed in some way, or just sat back and listened. I appreciate you being here. My name is Bob Stewart. Have an awesome rest of your week. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.